Hi, it's Dwyer. It is January 31st, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. It's right before the fight. Let me share with people what I've shared with my subscribers a few weeks ago. Right? I expect David Benavidez to beat David Morrell. Right? Few observations. I feel that Benavidez just beat a fighter in Alexander Grovestick, who is a better fighter than David Morrell. Morrell, no doubt, is a promising guy who had a spectacular record in the amateurs, right? He has one of my favorite trainers, Ronnie Shields, right? Shields, years ago, was in the corner of Pernell Whitaker. Just understand, Shields doesn't have enough to work with here. Morrell is a young guy still figuring out the pro game. Amateurs are very different than pros. There are many Olympic gold medalists who don't become champions in the pro ranks, right? There are others who are missing parts of their game in the pro ranks. For every Alexander Usyk, an Olympic gold medalist who has gone on a pro success, there's a Tony Yoka, an Olympic gold medalist who was in over his skis against Martin Bakole and who looks like he would be in over his skis against a Tyson Fury, against an Alexander Usyk, against a Daniel Dubois. Right? I have videos in my favorites folder. There's one from Movo Video. It's outstanding. They interview boxing luminaries and they interview Antonio Tarver. And listen closely to what Tarver has to say in that interview. Tarver points out that as great as Morrell looks, and he looks spectacular in highlights, of course, he's not fighting top-level opposition. Right? Tarver just points out that Morrell is always hunting and that we really don't know about Morrell's back foot. Right, folks? You cannot fight David Benavidez without a back foot. I don't care what the highlights look like. I'll agree, too, that Morrell is the better athlete. Right? Boozy Ennis is picking him in the fight. I have a lot of respect for Boozy Ennis. He trains not only his son, Jaron Ennis, but he also trains Stephen Fulton. Right? But just understand, Boozy's thesis is that Morrell hits harder than Benavidez, is more of a one-punch guy than Benavidez, right? And, my words, not Boozy Ennis's, is the better athlete. In my eyes, that's simply not enough. So in the hot rod fight that Morrell had, Morrell was coming forward, Hot Rod's throwing angles at him. Hot Rod, then, after being kind of lateral for a little bit, Hot Rod gets him to the middle of the ring, and you notice that Morrell doesn't know what to do. Right? He has no plan for the guy who has some defense, who knows how to parry his shots. Right? Morrell, quite frankly, isn't great, in my opinion, just hanging around the pocket, staying in the pocket, and actually having to box. Well, folks, Benavidez is a master at that. Understand, this is a guy who spent a lot of time sparring people like Gennady Golovkin, Gilberto Ramirez, Dmitry Bivol, Alexander Grovestick. Let me say, the criticism on Benavidez right now is ridiculous. We're hearing that Benavidez fights too parallel to an opponent, right? That his feet are together. Just understand that George Foreman's feet were too parallel. The fact that Benavidez is unbeaten, has already been a champion at 168 pounds, has fought vastly superior competition to David Morrell. Let's remember, this is a guy who fought Demetrius Andrade. And the fact that his feet being paralleled haven't placed him in peril in past fights should tell you that unless David Morrell is an outlier, right? Unless he is Arthur Beterbiev, unless he is some great talent out there, unless he is at the top of the talent curve, Benavidez' parallel feet aren't going to be a factor. In fact, it's the opposite, as Benavidez has pointed out in interviews. Right? Benavidez is a little unorthodox with his feet. That tells you the kind of weight shifting he's doing in the ring. Just like Foreman, would come in and would start doing a two-handed attack and wouldn't reset his feet. But yet you notice there was huge power in both hands. So it is with Benavidez. So what you have here is a guy who's a master in the pocket. That's Benavidez. Against a guy who has to come into the pocket to be effective. As I mentioned on my members only video here, Morrell does have a path to victory. He is the better athlete. He is a big puncher. One would think that if he had the discipline to stay outside and to throw shots from the outside, to use his ring coverage, and to never end up deep in the pocket with David Benavidez, he would have a very good chance in the fight. Folks, that's not his mindset. A leopard can't change his spots overnight. Right? He's going to be outside. He's going to be throwing shots. Then what's he going to do with his underdeveloped back foot? He sees himself as alpha. He's going to want to engage Benavidez. Benavidez is going to come looking for him from the opening bell. Benavidez has faced guys with great back feet. Right? Caleb Plant. Right? Benavidez is going to be pursuing him. Demetrius Andrade, great back foot. Right? Benavidez is going to be pursuing Morrell. Morrell is going to feel an aggression toward him that he hasn't felt. Fighting the other people on his resume. Fighting Hot Rod, who came in and hovered. Right? No, he's going to be facing a guy who's going to be on his front foot. Now, he can call him RoboCop. What does he have to stop RoboCop? In my mind, not enough. Right? I think Benavidez wins the fight. Morrell has a puncher's chance by about the fourth round. They're going to be in the pocket. And we're going to find out that Benavidez has vastly superior defense. Vastly superior defense. Right? We're going to find out that in a firefight, only one of these guys is prepared for the firefight. Right? Morrell's going to try to use his athleticism and legs for defense. In other words, he's not going to know how to put his hand up to block shots. He hasn't had to do that. So he's going to try to back away from David Benavidez. How did that work out for Caleb Plant? How has that worked out for anyone who has fought David Benavidez? Right? Benavidez, too, underrated hand speed. He has a gear he can shift into where his hands are going to be much faster than David Morrell's. So make no mistake, Benavidez is the savant in this fight. Let me just say, too, emotionally, these fighters aren't what they seem. Right? Morrell suddenly is a big talker. Right? Suddenly Morrell wants to be alpha in the room. Right? In reality, Morrell knows he hasn't fought anybody in his past as good as Benavidez in a pro fight. What's the high watermark for his pro career? Hot Rod? Right? Folks, Hot Rod went the distance with him. Now, by contrast, Benavidez, who is wearing gold, he's trying to look thuggish, right? He's, making sure he has a grin on his face as he stares Morrell in the face and stuff like that. He looks like a bully. Folks, he's a math guy, right? These are the guys where the image is just a poker persona, right? I believe in actuality, Benavidez is the guy who is figuring out angles, is constantly working to improve his game, right? He has a father who wants technical fighters. He comes from a fighting family, right? I'm hearing all this talk about the Cuban system and stuff like that. Folks, give me a great trainer like Benavidez' father, who's from the pro ranks, not some amateur Olympic system, and I'll be good. That's what Benavidez has, right? So Benavidez, math guy, just like Tom Brady, reading pass coverage. He's just crunching numbers, right? Safety's over on this side of the field. I have a guy running an underneath route here. My third option is covered. I'm going to the underneath route, right? Why didn't he do better against Grovestick? And let's be clear on who Grovestick is. He's a guy who put Adonis Stevenson in the hospital. He's the guy who started fast against Beterbiev and was ahead in that fight as late as like the 7th or 8th rounds. Much better fight against Beterbiev than, let's say, Callum Smith had. Then, let's say, Anthony Yard had. Right? Understand, too, Grovestick talks about how when he sparred Benavidez years ago, how Benavidez got the better of him early. Then, of course, Grovestick started to even it up a little bit. Well, that's how their fight went. Right? Benavidez came out. Benavidez, I know to us, he looks normal. To guys in the ring, they see the parallel feet. They see his hands up. He's tall. He knows how to lean. He knows how to defend himself. The key to Benavidez is he's waiting for patterns. This is the thinking man's slugger, right? Like George Foreman. He is much more mental than any of us want to believe. So this isn't really a bad blood fight. This is, maybe Morrell has bad blood toward Benavidez and has a point to prove. This is Benavidez thinking about, okay, if I parry this guy's right hand, he's going to be wide open for this punch. If he's not, if he's better prepared than that, then my plan B is going to be that punch. Right? I'm going to move a little bit off at the side just to confuse him momentarily. I need to bait him into coming into the pocket. Benavidez is entering the ring with a recipe here. Right? The reason why this fight is happening, in my eyes, is because technician Benavidez saw that Hot Rod Kazaljic fight that Morrell had and realizes that Morrell is not ready. Right? Also, I suspect, and I don't know what the truth is, I'm not making allegations here, but I suspect Benavidez suspects that Morrell is a juicer, right? I'm not saying anyone's juicing. I'm just saying, you look at guys and, you start to say, gee, how natural is this guy, right? I think Benavidez' feeling is that the muscles are going to catch up to Morrell as his body starts to tire, right? Now, right or wrong, if you believe a guy is a juicer, just understand you feel the guy isn't natural. So if you put stress on his body is going to revolt against him. Right? So I believe Morrell excuse me, I believe Benavidez believes he has the perfect opponent for him. An overhyped guy who looks spectacular on video, right? I believe there's a reason why the Boozy Ennises of the world are enamored with Morrell, right? He looks spectacular, spectacular amateur record. The knockouts look great. Morrell's coming in, he's throwing uppercuts, he's doing a lot, right? The problem is if he's forced onto his back foot, does he have one? Right? The problem is if a firefight breaks out, I know Morrell is not going to have the defense that Benavidez is going to have. If Benavidez hurts him, I know Benavidez has the faster hands in the pocket. I like Benavidez to win the fight. I'll concede Morrell has a puncher's chance. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I know there are going to be many people who disagree with me, and that's fine, right? That's why there's a betting market. Right? People disagree, right? But just understand, Benavidez is rightfully the favorite in this fight. When I see on one side of the aisle a guy who's fought Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade, Alexander Groznik, right? And on the other side of the aisle, I see a guy who was forced to go the distance against Hot Rod. Hot Rod's good, right? Hot Rod knows how to throw angles out there at you, right? The point is, Morrell didn't know how to deal with the angles, right? Benavidez creates the illusion of being right in front of you. That's not the case. Let me also say, too, you go back to the Benavidez-David Lemieux fight. Lemieux's left hook special, right? I'm just telling you, Benavidez was ready on what he was going to do well before that first round, right? He's in against a slugger. He knew how to block the left hook. He was prepared for it. More importantly, he knew what he was going to throw after he blocked the left hook. This is the guy who enters the ring with a script, right? Morrell just isn't advanced enough to get Benavidez off that script, right? I'm not saying Morrell doesn't have a vibrant future in boxing, right? But what I am saying is Benavidez is in there. He doesn't really care who Morrell is. Morrell is an abstraction. He's just a set of skills, right? Benavidez, who's been in the ring with greats, right? Both in real fights and, in sparring. He's going to be in the ring and he's going to know that Morrell is going to run out of ideas by the fourth round. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let's have a robust discussion. I'll try to respond to some of the comments, so it's a two-way street. Thanks for stopping by.